Chun-Li jacket on. New kicks too, call me Kim Kappa. Got my bread up and nothing jigger stack it on. Bills doing keto, they ain't even stacking on. Out of hustle, different continents. Foreign exchange trades and I ain't got no common sense. No features like I can't take a compliment. Committed to the game, but hard to be monogamous. Too many fish in the sea and I wanna see them. Gotta be at you got the way to be up in my DM.
Splash.
Handle my own lane, ain't got no time for being. Already in the car, let's get and on my toilet paper 2-ply. Pretend to fall through when you wish for a blue sky. And on my toilet paper 2-ply. Pretend to fall through when you wish for a blue sky. And on my toilet paper 2-ply. Pretend to fall through when you wishing for a blue sky. And on my toilet paper 2-ply. Man.
Yo, what is good? What is up? We are back. 2020 vision, 2020 goals, chasing this bag, all 2020. Know what I mean? That's why this podcast is brought to you by Raid Shadow. No, I'm just kidding. We ain't got no goddamn sponsors. But no, seriously though, guys. Happy 2020. Happy Friday. This is not the first Friday of 2020. I was going to say this is the first Friday of 2020. We didn't do a podcast last week. I said we weren't. I said we most likely weren't just because take some time to relax really quick, break in the new year for me, get accustomed to what's going on for me and what I plan on doing, and also just, get things a little finalized and detailed for the start of Season 2. So, this is Season 2 of the 40 Ounce Fridays podcast. If you just need to know the episode number, this is episode 28. So, Season 2, episode 1, but, episode 28. I'm still going to just count the episodes in order, so this will be marked down as episode 28, as you probably will already see if you're listening to this. But we are in the second season of the 40 Ounce Fridays podcast. I call it a second season just because I feel like, it's the start of a new year. 40 Ounce Fridays, I started doing, in June of 2019, so a good 6 months of podcasting, minus, a couple of weeks here and there where I just didn't record an episode 1 week for one reason or another, but I tried to let you guys know that it wasn't going to happen. But, this year I want to do different stuff. I want to feel more structured. I want to feel like we have some groundwork laid out, and hopefully we'll do that. Like I said, I plan on getting new equipment soon. I just gotta, get the money for it, which I will be within the next few coming months. So bear with me on that. But hopefully we should, at some point early in this year, feel and hear an improvement in quality for the podcast. But I am going to get that structure stuff together. So intros out of the way, introductions out of the way. I'm HiK-Upp, by the way, for anyone new or old listening. I know I don't have a lot of listeners. I feel like I have more listeners than the 10 it shows. It's just the fact that people don't follow the podcast, which I think is fine. It's whatever. And also, some people only listen to it on my Facebook page. So they don't follow it on here, which is also fine. But just to let you guys know, I think I did this last podcast too. If you are listening to this on Podbean and you listen to it on a regular basis, because I have a lot of listens. As of now, it shows me I have 177 listens. So I'm just like, I know people are listening to it. It jumped up by 40 between the other day and today. So I was just like, oh wow, that's kind of a big leap for me, and considering how small my following is. So I was like, oh wow, that was a lot of listens. And somebody commented on one of the episodes. I was like, oh cool. So if we're going to pull in more traffic, get new people, spread the word, please follow the podcast on here on Podbean if you listen often on Podbean, just to let me know, hey, I have more than 10 people listening. It keeps me motivated, it keeps me wanting to do more, and it's nice to know that I have people that like hearing my voice for an hour and a half ramble about bullshit. But also, if you listen to it on the Facebook page, on Art Project's Facebook page, go ahead and follow Art Project too. So I know people are listening. Go ahead and like the podcast videos. Comment. Let me know what you thought. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're here, dude. It's nice to have the support, and I really appreciate it and everything you guys do. But if you're new, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you don't get bored of me or annoyed with me within this. I pretty much, I don't want to say I do commentary. I don't want to do criticism or review. I just talk my shit. I just ramble. This whole podcast is just me voicing my opinion about anime, video games, and music. The things I like. Other stuff too sometimes, but those are like the main three things. Anime is probably the number one thing, then video games, then music. It kind of goes in that order from top to bottom. But all that nerd shit that I really enjoy or that I'm into, I talk about here. And it's mainly opinion-based. Sometimes I inform, I give information like I'm going to do today. But mainly just opinions, me talking, me just slinging my shit, how I feel about certain things. If you agree with me, cool. If you disagree with me, also cool. No bad blood between us. All love here. I'm not trying to hate on anybody. Even if I do sound angry at certain points, which I probably will say. But I know I said we're going to, at the start of season 2, we're going to do a segment in the podcast where we do Yu Yu Hakusho reviews. I'm going to save that for next week because if you were listening to the podcast episodes from season 1, episodes 1 through 27, you know that I talked about Pokemon Sword and Shield a lot in the course of those 6 months. Just because, even before the game came out, just because of all the controversy going on with the National Dex cut, the quality animations, reused models, game coming out, how people felt about the content, this and that and this, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, Pokemon Sword and Shield, I really enjoyed. It is an okay Pokemon game, but a lot of Pokemon games are just okay Pokemon games. It's just a Pokemon game. This is my opinion, of course. And then, if I'm talking subjectively, I really enjoyed the game and I had a great time with it. That's just all it is. And that was the end of the day. And I wasn't going to talk about Pokemon for the first podcast of the year, but Game Freak forced my hand. They had a Nintendo Direct yesterday. They already announced that they were going to, I think a week prior. But it was all for Pokemon. So there was 2 bits of news that came out. So normally at first, after also we got a new opening, if you guys didn't notice. That opening is called Mic Check 2-Ply by a YouTuber, artist, comedian guy named GMCFOSHO. GMCFOSHO, that is his name, yes. Check him out on YouTube. Funny dude. He has a shit ton of funny songs. They all come with music videos. He's been doing this for years. His most popular one, probably something you might have heard, is called I'm the Biss. It came out years and years ago, and me and my friends were fucking dying laughing at it. And he had an album of music, and then he made another album, and apparently he's making a third one. I'm so excited, but yeah, that was him doing our intro. Now that's our season 2 intro. I am retiring the Dragon Quest Hose Mad. Sorry, guys, but it ran its course. Loved it to death, though. R.I.P. Always will love Hose Mad Dragon's Quest. But yeah, normally I would do the intro, my introduction, and then quick news about anime, music, games before we move on to the Yu Yu Hakusho stuff, then main topic. But the main topic and the main focus for our first episode of the year is going to be on Pokemon, mainly Pokemon Sword and Shield, just because what was shown in the Direct yesterday. Because there's a lot of polarizing views about it, just as polarizing as Sword and Shield. And there's also a lot of misconceptions and false news and information being spread around already, and it's barely been a day since the news came out. So I wanted to address that, talk about it, clarify some things, give my thoughts upon what's happened, so on and such, blah, blah, blah. So, first things first, I guess the quick news thing for this, about the Nintendo Direct, they announced 2 things. The first thing they showed was a remake of the original Pokemon Red Mystery Dungeon and Blue Mystery Dungeon. I think it's called Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers DX? I forget what it's called, something X. It's a remake of the original 2, the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red and Blue. And if you guys remember those are classics. People love them. And a lot of people say they're the best Mystery Dungeon games to come out. So they're doing a remake of that. So I'm assuming it's just kind of both versions rolled into one, because it's only one game that got announced, and it's going to be on the Switch. And if you didn't see the Direct yesterday, they have a little trailer for it, and also there's a demo already available for play in the Nintendo eShop that came out yesterday. So if you want to give that a chance, I'm probably going to download it probably after the podcast. I was busy yesterday. I had to go to work. I just had to go to work late, so I had time to actually sit down and listen to the Direct and watch the Direct. So I'll probably download it today and give it a shot. I never played a lot of Mystery Dungeon. Just wasn't like... It didn't seem like something I was going to be interested in, but that was years ago when I was a kid. And then by the time all the other ones came out, I just wasn't into the fandom of it, so I just never ended up picking one up. I'll probably pick this one up. There's a demo. Might as well try it. And it's a data transferable demo. So... if you want to buy the game, the save data you have, you can transfer into the main game when you buy it, if you buy it. So, boom. Kind of like Dragon Quest XI. Then the main news. Here's the main event. Here's what we're going to be talking about today. It was about Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, if you didn't watch the Direct and you avoided all the memes and videos and articles spreading about it, Pokemon Sword and Shield is getting not one, but 2 DLC expansions coming out this year. The first one is coming out in June. It is called the Isle of Armor, or the Armor Isle, something like that, the Island of Armor. And the second one is called the Crown Tundra. Like I said, the first expansion, the Armor Island, is coming out in, they said June of 2020. And then they said the Crown Tundra was coming out in autumn of 2020. So expect some slight updates, I guess, over the course of the next 6 months leading up to the release of the first expansion. And then later near the end of the year, expect the second expansion to come out. This was a surprise to a lot of people, and to a lot of others, it wasn't. I was on the camp of not being too shocked by this. Honestly, while I'm not shocked by this is something I, definitely saw being, a strong possibility that they were going to have, DLC or some kind of added content to Pokemon Sword and Shield, because it's the first main series Pokemon game. It's the first main series Pokemon game on a console. It was clear to me that they were probably going to add content like that. Whether it be free updates or some paid DLC content, or both. And it is both. We're getting free updates and paid these DLC expansions. But, honestly, dude, when they announced that Direct, I was just like, wow, already? This was probably be my second guess that it was the expansions, but my first thoughts that popped into my head when they announced them, I was like, they're already going to announce Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield. And I was like, please don't do this shit. Or Super Sword or Super Shield, or Sword and Shield 2, or Pokemon Gun. I don't fucking know. I thought they were going to announce another version of Gen 8 already. And I was like, oh, big oofs. So, but it was so expected of Game Freak and Nintendo to do that. So that was my number one guess. But the expansions, the DLC in general, was definitely my number 2 guess. Ever since the game launched and I played through it, I expected DLC content to get added to the game. So I was not shocked. But I was pleasantly surprised and impressed by the presentation of the expansions. So I'm definitely in the ballpark of being cool with this. This is fine to me. And I'll tell you my reasonings why. Keep in mind, this is my opinion. If you disagree with me on my opinion, that is fine. I'm not telling you that my word is law, that I am God, and that whatever I say, you just have to agree with, or you're just being a bitch. I'm going to get into some people being bitches about this, but for very specific reasons. But if you're not feeling the idea of I really didn't want to pay more for more stuff in my Pokemon game, I don't really want the expansion pass. That's perfectly fine, because there are some things you can still obtain through certain methods. And I'll get into that. Like I said, this is pretty much going to be me regurgitating what they said in that 26-minute Direct. But the reason why I'm doing this is because a lot of stuff didn't seem too clear to people. because I already saw a ton of false info about the direct being spread around, and it's not even like crazy false info. Like like people are saying like, oh, this is happening, and that wasn't even close to being said in the direct or something. It just seems like misconceptions or like something misheard that they said during the direct, and people like misheard it in a different way and thought, oh, they meant this, but that's not what they meant. You know what I mean? Little mistakes, but it already spread so fast and people believe it that I thought I'd address it. Okay, so they announced the directs, they announced the expansions. They talked about how usually, they make a third version or the sequel version, updated version, whatever you want to call it. This time they're doing an expansion. They said they had been working on it. Don't quote me on this one. I don't remember specifically, but I believe they said they were working on these expansions at least a little before Sword and Shield's release. So it's not something they could have put on the base game, because I know a lot of people are like, this should have just been in base game. They cut it on purpose to sell it to us later. I don't think they did. Like I said, I don't think Game Freak are intentional liars. I think they're just stupid. Like I said with the whole Dex cut and what happened, I think they're just fucking dumb. Like, I don't think they were planning to. I'll get into it, but anyway, I don't think this is something that they could have already put in. Now, if there's proof or evidence that comes out that shows otherwise, that they could have easily put this in the base game by the time it released when it released, I'll take back what I said easily, but there's no proof of that. So I'm just going by what they said for now, but it is easily understandable that people would be like, yeah, whatever, you were, like, because what happened with Sword and Shield. But, the expansions are going to add 2 new areas, of course. So the first one is the Island of Armor. It's an island to the east, the eastern part of Galar. And, this isle, both expansions are going to be like the wild area. So when you go to the Island of Armor, it's not like, apparently it's not supposed to be like, oh, you go into a town, and it's just, like a Pokemon town, and then, like, there's routes, and then there's, like, a wild area in the center. The whole Island of Armor is supposed to be, like, a wild area, and the whole Crown Tundra is supposed to be, like, a wild area. So I'm assuming whatever buildings or places you can go into where people are at are just going to be on the wild area map, which is totally possible. Like, I don't see why not, especially now that it's just like a content expansion. But there's a dojo there, and apparently the storyline's going to involve you training in this dojo under a dude named Mustard. And apparently Mustard is like this old trainer. He's like an old dude, but apparently he's one of Leon's mentors. So we're going to learn from the former champion's mentors, so that's kind of cool and interesting to note. And you're also getting a new rival during this content expansion. So we are getting some storyline to these expansions. It's not just like, oh, here's an extra wild area. There's actual storyline going on here. How long that storyline is going to be and what that storyline is going to be about, we do not know. But we know there is a storyline. It's going to involve you training at this dojo where Leon learned from this guy. And there's rivals. There's at least one new rival that's going to be involved in this content expansion. And they're version exclusive rivals, just like with the certain gym leaders in Sword and Shield. If you have Sword, you get the girl rival. I forget her name and what type of Pokemon she trains with, but I forget her. I think her name is Kara or Kreia or something like that. And then if you have Shield, like me, you get Avery. Avery looks a little weird. They both wear, like, like the Pokemon gym, like the gym arena, like, gear that you wear when you fight the gym leaders and compete in the Pokemon League. They have, like, gear like that. But he has, like, a little top hat on top of that. So I'm just like, I think he trains psychic types, and I think the other girl, I don't remember. But they train different types, and they both, according to what they were saying during the direct, they both want to eventually have gyms for themselves and compete. Because there's no Elite Four in the Galar region. Big spoilers if you haven't finished Sword and Shield. It's when you get to the Champion Cup, it's a big league tournament. And the winner, once you get all 8 badges, you compete with other trainers who got 8 badges. And once you win that, you get to compete in the actual Champions Cup. The actual Champions Cup is you and, 7 of the gym leaders in a tournament bracket. And this time the gym leaders are using, like, their full, like, more powerful team, not like their gym-issued stationary team that's supposed to be at specific levels. This is supposed to be them at their full strength in the tournament, battling you. And the winner of that tournament then gets the right to face Leon to try to become champion, which is something I really liked in Sword and Shield, and something I noted when I was talking about Sword and Shield after I finished it. I liked that we actually got a tournament rather than an Elite Four. I will say I still would have liked to have an Elite Four. Like, that would have been cool for endgame content to have an Elite Four. Like, after you beat the Champion Cup and Leon, the Elite Four are just like, interesting. And, like, maybe they're, like, the bigger trainer. Like, in, what's it called? In the Pocket Monsters manga, after Red becomes champion of the region, he beats Blue, becomes champion, and then there's another arc involving a character named Yellow, and Red has gone missing, and he's been kidnapped by the Elite Four. So the Elite Four are, like, the top of the region, and, like, the champion of the Pokemon League is just the champion of that Pokemon League. So I would have been cool endgame content to be, like, you get, like, an invitation to battle off against the Elite Four of the Galar region, and we just see more Pokemon-type variety, new characters. But it's whatever. I was really... Because something I've always wanted in a Pokemon League is like how it is in the show, like a tournament. And so there was a tournament, and I thought that was really cool. But, I went way off topic. But, yeah, they have to be gym leaders because that's one of the highest honors you can have in the Galar region besides being the champion. So that's their goal. And also, during the storyline, you get a new legendary Pokemon. That's right, a new legendary Pokemon. Something we could not obtain prior to this content expansion coming out. And its name is Cub-Fu. It's a little bear that does Kung Fu. He's a fighting type. And apparently it's given to you during the story, and it plays a key role in the story on the Island of Armor. So you need it with you. But Cub-Fu can evolve. So one of the rare things is seeing a legendary or a mythical Pokemon have evolution. Still only a handful of those could do that. So that's cool to see. And it evolves into Yoroshifu, I believe is what it's called. It's like a bigger bear that does Kung Fu. But there's 2 different forms of Yoroshifu, which I found really cool. Because I don't know if it didn't seem depending on version. They didn't say that. And I feel like they would have if that was the case, because they told you the specific rivals depending on your version. So I believe you'll probably get the choice of which form you want your Yoroshifu to be, regardless of if you have Sword or if you have Shield. But there's 2 different types of Yoroshifu. There's the single strike style, which is a fighting dark type, and they described it as, delivering powerful one-hit, strong blows to finish off the opponent. And then there's multi-strike Yoroshifu, which is a water fighting, or I think it's fighting dark and then fighting water. I believe its primary type is still fighting. But, you know what I mean. And it does multiple hits, like fluid, like running water in that one motion. So it's different kind of styles of Kung Fu, depending on which one you want. So I thought that was really cool that this legendary can have 2 different forms. Or maybe you can switch between the 2 forms with a specific item. I don't know. We'll see when we get to that point. But I thought it's cool. It reminds me of excuse me. What's that Pokemon called? Toxtricity? That poison electric type. It has 2 different forms, and the forms of Toxtricity don't depend on its nature. So maybe it'll depend on its nature too. Cub-Fu into Yoroshifu, maybe it'll depend on its nature. Because I know Toxtricity, like, if you have such and such natures, it'll evolve into one type, and then it'll evolve into the other type with the other natures. So that's cool that we got another one of those. That's an interesting evolutionary method. So we'll see. On top of getting this new area to explore, this new kind of wild area map, new content, for story. We're getting new clothes, new customization items. You'll be able to actually customize your Rotom bike in more ways too, so that's kind of cool. So you can kind of have your Rotom bike feel a little more unique to your character. And I'm always down for more clothes customization. I was saying that before. I'd be totally down. I was already going to be totally down if they, like, released, like, clothes packs for Sword and Shield, and they were just like, $3 and you get these clothes. Like, I wouldn't be mad if they charged us for clothes, because it's like, you don't need the clothes. You literally don't need the clothes. It's if you want those aesthetic purposes, you can buy them. And I know people will be mad. It's like, why don't they give clothes out for free? It's just like, who cares, dude? You don't need them. Like, I would have been perfectly fine. Because then you just buy whatever clothes pack you feel suits your style the best. Be like, oh, I like this kind of style, so I'll just buy this one pack. You don't have to buy them all. Same thing with hairstyles. I'm kind of totally down for more hairstyles. Boys had like 5. I know girls had more hairstyles than the guys in this game, of course, but I'm just like, can we get some more hairstyles? I would love some dreadlocks. Add some dreadlocks. Or just like a normal fade, like buzz cut fade. Like something, or just completely bald. Like, I need better hairstyles for the dudes, Game Freak. Come on. But, so I thought that was cool. And the icing on the cake is that for this first expansion, we're getting 100 Pokemon added. Not 100 brand new Pokemon. I believe, Kubfu and Yoroshifu, I don't know if they count towards that 100 or not. But if they do, then that means there's like 98 Pokemon from past regions and older generations being added into the game. They will be available to catch. Now, this led to some controversy. I'll get into it in a second. The Crown Tundra is the second expansion that's coming out later this year in the fall. And we don't know too much about it, except they said it emphasizes and focuses on exploration. By the way, the Island of Armor focuses on growth. So that they have themes, apparently. So the Island of Armor is going to focus on growth, while the Crown Tundra is going to focus on exploration. And it looks like a cold, icy, snowy, mountain, blizzardy place to explore and travel around. So hopefully we get a lot of exploration out of that, especially if it's supposed to be wild area-like. And new gear, of course, new clothing. They showed them in like some snow gear, and in the Island of Armor they showed like the generic player characters and like it looks like some martial arts gi looking things, so it looked cool. And also we're getting 100 older Pokemon added from that, but there's also another new legendary. There's a couple of new legendaries actually being shown. They showed some artwork for 2 new Regis. They're not Galar forms for these Regis. These are 2 new Regis that are being added to the game. And if you pay attention to the trailer when they're showing off the expansion, there is a building in the Crown Tundra that looks like you could enter, and one half of it is yellow and one half of it is red. Clearly one of the Regis is an electric type. It's yellow. It looks all like electricity. And then the other looks like it could be like a dragon type, or even like a steel, or even like a fighting type or a dark type or something like that. It looks like kind of like a knight in armor, but it's red. But then like it has like black arms. It kind of looks like shield or armor, but they're shaped like dragons. So it looks like this tower or structure is going to house these Regis. How you're going to gain access to these Regis, I do not know yet. Can you just go in, do some puzzles, and challenge them? Or do you have to do something specific? Do you need Regigigas? What's going on with it? We'll find out when we get to that point. But, again, another 100 Pokemon being added, including another legendary. And that legendary... Oh, what's its name? Croyle? I forget what it's called. It looks really weird. You can look it up and see for yourself. It's kind of like... I don't want to describe it. It looks a little dopey, but it's supposed to look like regal as well. It's like this kind of like jackalope-ish looking animal with like these kind of like longish looking legs. And then it has like antler ears that hold up this big crown looking thing. It's supposed to look like it has a crown. It's supposed to look royal. And according to what the director was saying, this Pokemon used to rule over all the Galar region. So it looks like the storyline for the Island of Armor, like I said, is going to focus on growth. Sorry, my throat's a little dry, give me a second. Whew. like I said, it's going to focus on growth for the Island of Armor. So it looks more to be like rival driven, like maybe your rival wants to grow and you're training and you're learning more about yourselves. And of course, Cub Fu is learning more about itself, so probably by the end of that storyline it'll evolve. Maybe you and your rival have a Cub Fu, and whatever form you get, your rival gets the opposite, and then you guys have a battle like that. Maybe it's like growing together, training together, learning some history about Leon, other characters. More personal of a story, like a bonding kind of thing. And then the Crown Tundra is going to be more about Galar lore. Because one thing that a lot of people said the story Sword and Shield is lacking is lore. And I agree completely. There's not a lot of lore talked about in Sword and Shield. Besides, like, the basic stuff about Zacian and Zamazenta. And, like, Eternatus, it came from space, and it's, you know, the origin of Dynamaxing, but we don't know a lot. So, like, where was this former legendary that ruled over Galar when Eternatus came down, crashed into? Do Zacian and Zamazenta know this royal-looking Pokemon? What is their relation? Were they, like, its royal guards? Because according to the lore that you can piece together when you're watching the story, it clearly seems like the two heroes that fought against the darkness, the sword hero and the shield hero, were Zacian and Zamazenta. But I'm also assuming that there were two kings that were their partners, because you end up becoming the partner of whichever version you have, and then Hop gets the other one. So, like, in mine, I got Zamazenta, I got the shield one. So Hop ends up getting Zacian, so he gets the sword one. So I'm assuming that these two Pokemon had, like, trainers with them, or partners, that they deemed worthy, like they deemed myself and Hop to be, like your player character and Hop to be. So did this ruler of Galar legendary Pokemon also have a trainer, or some kind of master it respected and partnered up with? And it kind of led the sword hero and the shield hero into battle. And it is kind of like, has like a green or more greenish color to it, with the big ass jewel on its head. Its body itself is like kind of like a white and gray color palette. But so maybe it can, you know, match up with the red blue. They do red, blue, green a lot. Rayquaza with Groudon and Kyogre. And then Zygarde with Yveltal and Xerneas. So I could see it kind of being like, not the third for a trio, but kind of like the King's Guardian Pokemon, and then like the King's like two Knights could have had the Sword Hero and the Shield Hero, and then maybe those Knights were crowned. Maybe something happened and these Knights instead were crowned King after and added into the royal family. I don't know. But apparently it has something to do with the lore and the storyline and the background of the Galar region's history. So I'm very curious into that. Also curious into why the Reggies are there. Why are there two Reggies there? What do they have to do with the lore of the Galar region? So if it is focusing more on exploration, I'm totally down, especially if it's a wild area-like place for exploration. Because that's going to be interesting, to say the least. I hope it's something like you really have to search the wild area to find certain spots and trigger certain story events. I feel like the growth one in the Island of Armor is definitely going to be more like linear story driven, like do this, but it'll be fun and enjoyable and a good time. You're on this like little island area to train, so like it's supposed to have that feel. Whereas the Crown Tundra, I'm kind of hoping to be more of a kind of figure it out yourself kind of thing. It'll give you direction, but you kind of have to do it yourself, just like how you would like explore to find like endgame legendaries in like Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald and stuff like that, like the Gen 3, 4, 5 games where you really have to search to find the other legendaries that weren't really important to the story, like that optional stuff. Like, I hope the Crown Tundra kind of has that kind of vibe to it. Maybe, like, the main story with that third legendary, that royal one, like, that one's kind of a little more linear. Like, you follow along with it. But for, like, the Reggies and some other stuff, maybe you gotta, like, really look, kind of go out of your way, which will be fun. because camping in the tundra, maybe you'll get like a different camping set because it's really, really cold out there. It's not like, oh, it's snowing this today in this area of the wild area. Like, this place is all snow. Like, this place is all icy. They had like tundra gear on and the little concept artwork. So maybe you get a different camp like built for snow prep and other stuff like of that nature. That'd be kind of interesting to see. Is the blizzard going to be even more harsh than like a normal blizzard would, and it does more damage or other effects or something like that? I'm curious. I'm curious to know. So I hope the exploration of the Crown Tundra is really, really deep exploration. Like I said, with the growth one, I'm fine with it just being growth. I'm fine with it just being kind of like this linear storyline with like a fun little island to explore and run around, but you just kind of follow along with the characters and enjoy a good time. That's what it seems like they're doing. And then, now with these older Pokemon, the first, sorry, I had to move my phone. The first common misconception or like error I've been seeing is people are saying you have to buy the expansion pass to have access to these 200 Pokemon, like the 2 new legendaries, like with Kung-Fu/Urshifu, and then this new Royal Pokemon, and the new Reggies, and stuff like that. You have to have the expansion pass, as well as like any of the other older Pokemon, because you can only catch them in these new areas, so you need to have the expansion pass to do so. You do not need the expansion pass to obtain these new Pokemon. Oh, shoot, I farted. I sat up and I farted. Jesus Christ. That's recorded. I cannot cut that. I'm not going to. I refuse. What was I saying? You don't need the expansion pass to obtain these Pokemon. Or have access to them, at least. Once the expansion comes out, the game's, gonna do an update, like how games update with DLC, to make your game version compatible with whoever else has the DLC, or just compatible with the DLC in general. So, like, if somebody does have the DLC and you don't, you could still challenge them to a Pokemon battle, or trade with them. And that's what I'm saying. You can still get these older Pokemon just by trading other people. Now, also, with these older Pokemon, if you already planned before the National Dex Cut got announced way back, most people were already planning on transferring a shit ton of their older Pokemon into Sword and Shield. Like, I know a lot of people always transfer their older Pokemon into the newer games because they already bred like these strong Pokemon or have a strong bond with these older Pokemon that they've had for games and games and games. These older Pokemon can be transferred into Sword and Shield through Pokemon Home. Pokemon Home is coming out in February of this year. So you will be able to transfer your older Pokemon from the older generation as long as they're currently on the Pokédex now. So as of these 200 Pokemon being added, we're going to have about 600 Pokemon. So you don't really have anything to worry about when it comes to that. And what was I going to say? You can transfer them from your old game into Home. You don't have to worry about getting the expansion to try to catch them again. You can have your Pokemon with its same stats, levels, abilities, whatever. I believe the only issue you'll probably run into is if it has certain moves that are cut from the game. Maybe it'll auto just take them off your moveset. I don't know. I don't know if certain moves will get added, because I know, like, with certain Pokemon, certain moves got deleted or cut from this game just because they were signature moves exclusive to a certain Pokemon that didn't make the cut into the game in the first place, so there's no reason to have them. So I'm sure if those Pokemon get added back, those moves should be added back eventually. I don't know. They'll probably have to work on rebalancing the competitive scene as well, because 200 Pokemon are coming in. But those are the two ways of doing it. You can trade other people to obtain these Pokemon, or you can trade them from older games if you've had them in the older games. So there's that. Now, I know there are a lot of people who then were upset about the whole Pokemon Home thing, and this is something I found weird, because when Pokemon Home got announced, everyone was like, oh, okay, so it's like going to be the new Pokemon Bank. I just transfer all my Pokemon into there, and then I can put them into the game. Everyone was cool with that, and then the National Dex Cut happened, or was announced. And then people were like, well, what the fuck is the point of Pokemon Home? And even though Game Freak was like, oh, we're not going to add the old Pokemon, we're doubling down. There was no way they weren't going to do it, because what would be the point of Pokemon Home at that point? Like, what would be the point? Like, to transfer some of the older Pokemon that are available in Sword and Shield, but they're obtainable in Sword and Shield. So what would be the point? What would literally be the point? So I was just like, they're eventually going to do it, because there'd be no other reason for Pokemon Home to exist. And then the usefulness of Pokemon Bank would cease, which is something... And they tried to... When Pokemon Bank first came out, they made it clear that it was supposed to be like a sure, permanent way to store your Pokemon. So Pokemon Home essentially is like the sequel or the successor to that, I'm guessing, in that aspect. But the thing people have been recently having an uproar about is, so I have to pay for Pokemon Bank and Pokemon Home. My thing with that is, if you were already planning on doing that before the Dex Cut got announced, which is the main reason why a lot of people are mad about the Dex Cut, they couldn't trade a lot of their older Pokemon in. Why are you mad about it now when you were already going to do that? Why is it a problem now, but it wasn't a problem before? Also, isn't Pokemon Bank like $5 a year? So... by the time you transfer all your shit that you need to transfer over into Shield or just back into like an older version of your game, and you don't pay for Pokemon Bank anymore, or just pay for it. I get that you're like mad that you have to pay for two things, and that makes sense to me, but the thing that doesn't make sense to me is like a lot of people doing the uproar are the same people that were going to do this to begin with before the Dex Cut was even announced. So why are you mad about paying for it now? You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, I get it, but at the same time, I don't get it. It's kind of like but it's only an issue now because you're already mad about some stuff in Sword and Shield, so now you need something more to be upset about as well. That's how I feel about it, at least. Like, that's what I'm getting from it. I don't care because I am getting the expansion pass. It looks like a fun time. Call me a shill if you want. Call me a sheep if you want. It's my fucking money. I'll do what I want with it. You calling me whatever or saying I suck up to Game Freak or suck Game Freak's dick isn't going to change the fact that I worked for my fucking money and I'm going to buy what I feel like buying. You're not my fucking mom. Like, fuck out of here. And also, who the fuck cares? If you don't want the expansion pass, don't get it. Like I said, there's two other ways to obtain these Pokemon. Or just don't play the game. Now, I might sound like a shill or a Game Freak fanboy or a cocksucker, whatever you want to call me. I don't give a fuck. Because I'm not. I liked Sword and Shield. Do I love Sword and Shield? No. Ever since I finished everything in Sword and Shield, I play it considerably less because mainly there's other games I want to play. Like, I just recently finished the main story of Valkyrie Chronicles 4. I'm finishing up the DLC for that. Then I'm going to play Tales of Vesperia because I bought that around the same time as Valkyrie Chronicles 4 because they were both pretty cheap. So, it's one of those things where I'm just like, I have other games to play, so of course I'm not going to be constantly on Pokemon. And I don't have Nintendo Switch, the internet subscription. Oh, people were also mad about that too. They were like, I have to pay for Pokemon Bank, Pokemon Home, and the Nintendo internet service. It's just like... But you act like the internet service is only for Pokemon. Most people who already have the Nintendo Switch, like, internet, like, subscription service, like the Xbox Live, PlayStation Plus kind of thing, usually use it for multiple games. So, if you're using it exclusively for Pokemon, I feel like that's on you, you know? And it's something that... I don't want to talk about this too long. I want to get into the next subject of discussion. So, we're going to move into, what else was I going to talk about? Oh, the price. The price of these fucking, the expansion pass. Sorry about the weird sounding cut. My throat was, like, dried the fuck out. So, I had, like, my coffee with me. But it wasn't doing it, so I stopped really quick to get some water. But, Yeah, so with the internet service, I don't have the what I was getting at is I don't have the Switch internet service, so I don't play competitive anyway. Probably when the expansions come out, I'll start because I'll get into that later. There is some like new co-op play I think coming with the Crown Tundra expansion, but I'll get into that in a little bit. But so I don't even have that, so I'm not even tripping. But my thing is with what I was getting at with the Switch internet service is like you using that exclusively for Pokemon sounds like a you problem. Also, do you need the Switch internet service to transfer stuff from home? You probably do. You know what? I'm not even going to question that. You probably definitely do. But at the same time, again, like a lot of people already have the Switch internet service. So if you again, it sounds more like a you issue. I get it. I do get it. Look, I get it. You don't want to spend all that money, regardless of how cheap it is. Because people will be like, it's not even that much. Quit being cheap. It's like, but it's the fact that you have to spend money to do it. I understand. I perfectly get that. But at the same time, you already were going to do it. I feel more like this is a thing of like, I'm already mad, and this is making me more mad. And I feel it, but at the same time, it's kind of just like, I don't feel it. But moving along into the price of the actual expansion pass, this is another thing people are getting wrong. And this one, I can see why people are getting it wrong, because it looks a little weirdly like set up or worded the way they did it. But I got it the first time, but like I can see why people would be confused. Like, wait, what? Okay, the expansion pass for both these DLC expansions, for both the Island of Armor and the Crown Tundra, is $30 total. It is not $30 each. It is not $30 for the Isle of Armor and $30 for the Crown Tundra. It is $30 for both expansions. The reason why I think people thought it was $30 each is because the way they showed it, it is $30 per game version. So when you buy the expansion pass, you have to buy it for whatever version you have. So, which I think is stupid, but that's just the way they did it. And it's probably just because of what was I gonna say? There's probably more exclusive content between the versions than they've shown besides like that initial rival. But I feel like it's probably story-based stuff, and that's why it's they split it. But there's an expansion pass for Sword specifically that is $30 with both expansions. There is a content expansion pass for Shield that is $30 with both expansion passes included. You do not need to buy both if you only have one version. If you only have Shield, you do not need to buy the Sword one. If you only have Sword, you do not need to buy the Shield one. I'd even go as far as to say if you have both games, you probably still only need one, because if you're only buying them so you can go to these wild areas directly to catch Pokemon, you don't need both. If you don't care about experiencing the story with the different rivals or whatever else they're gonna have in it, you only need to do it once. You don't need to do it twice with like the slight differences. You don't need to buy both. Because I saw some people saying, well, fuck, I need to buy both for Sword and Shield. I saw that too. People understood that they were $30 each, but like they still felt like they needed to buy both. No, don't buy both. Don't buy both. You can trade people. You can see the alternate rival online. If you have both Sword and Shield, just buy just buy either the Sword one or the Shield one, whichever you feel like. Just wait as like time goes by, when they reveal more information on these expansion passes to pick. If you only have Sword, just go ahead and get it for Sword. Or if you're like me and you only have Shield, just go ahead and get it for Shield. You don't need both. It's $30 for the Island of Armor and the Crown Tundra. It is not $30 each, is what that is. A lot of people are saying like, why would I pay $60 for some expansions? It's not $60. It is $30 for two of them. Which means Both expansions are about $15 a piece. Now, my only issue with the way the expansion is being sold and priced is that you can't just buy one. You can't just buy the Island of Armor and not the Crown Tundra or vice versa. You have to buy both. The expansion passes both. So you have to spend the $30 if you want one. You have to get the other. Now, personally, it's not a problem for me just because I'm planning on getting both regardless. But I feel like maybe some people are like, well, I'll buy the Island of Armor, see how I feel about it. If I didn't really like it, then maybe I probably won't like the Crown Tundra either. Maybe I don't like the way they're doing the expansions. I won't spend that other $15. Because say you don't like the first expansion and you're not too confident about the second one, like the Crown Tundra, then you're still stuck paying that $30. So I feel like they should have sold them separately as well. But it's not too big of a deal. It's just a little if I had to nitpick the way they set up the price. Also, some people are saying it's too expensive. I don't think it's too expensive, and I'm going to be one of those guys that says it. They could have easily put this extra stuff into, like, a slightly improved version of Sword and Shield and sold it as a third version or Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield. They could have easily done that. They could have easily been like, here's Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield. Here's these 2 new areas with this other story content. $60, please. And that's the only way to play it. Rather than just making a $30 expansion. So it is cheaper. People are still going to be like, it should have been in the game in the first place. I'm going to be like, boo-hoo, don't cry. Honestly, though, quit crying over spilt milk. Like, it should have been in the game in the first place. As of now, what they said was they started making these ideas for the expansion and working on this expansion when Sword and Shield was already about to come out. So they did not have time to put it in the base game. So no, it shouldn't have been in the game in the first place because it was not planned. Now, are they lying? Maybe. People have already felt shafted by Game Freak already. I would not be surprised if they were lying. But there is no proof that they are. So until there is proof, I'm going to go by what they said. Again, I don't think Game Freak is a bunch of intentional liars, or liars in general. I just think they're stupid. Like, when they doubled down on, like, they weren't adding older Pokemon, they shouldn't have said that. What they should have said was, we'll probably work on plans to add them in the future. Maybe kind of be vague with it. Like, give, like, a yes answer, but not definitively say yes or how they were going to add them. Because doubling down just made them look a little bad, and it muddied the reputation of Sword and Shield before Sword and Shield even came out. Now Sword and Shield is eternally in this kind of negative light, regardless of the overall reception of the game. So now anything Sword and Shield does is going to be looked at so closely and judged so closely, and people are going to be looking for reasons to hate it. Because honestly, I guarantee you that if, at that Direct yesterday, when they announced these expansions, they could have been like, the expansions are dropping today, and they are free. And you could just get them and download them as long as you had the game. I guarantee you people still would have bitched about it. People still would have complained. People still would have hated it. People still would have been mad. Because they're already in this negative light for Sword and Shield. I promise you they would have. I promise you they would have. It's too late. It's too late. There's already this population of people that just fucking hate it and are spiteful. And I feel like a lot of false information is being spread because it is spiteful. And I feel like people are being petty. Because just, even with the whole, like, you can trade the older ones, you don't need to buy the expansion pass, people are like, yeah, but you need it to catch them. It's just like, nigga, you're gonna transfer most of your fucking Pokemon anyway. So that's not even a fucking problem. So shut the fuck up. Like, you're just looking for a reason to bitch. People that are saying that, we're going to transfer the 50 fucking Pokemon that probably got added into this 200 that are getting put in. They're probably going to transfer them from the older games that they already had into Sword and Shield. You had to catch them. Nigga, you probably already own them. Quit crying. Quit looking for a reason to hate something. This is honestly the best move Game Freak could have done. First of all, of course they're not going to put work and effort into anything and just release it to you for free. I don't give a fuck how you feel about Sword and Shield or how shafted you feel about Sword and Shield. No fucking company is going to make 2 expansions and then give them to you for free like that. What the fuck do you think this is? Like, that's fucking stupid. It's the same. This is exactly how it was with Xenoverse 2 when Xenoverse 2 started adding more. Regardless of how you feel, I also think they're adding too much DLC to Xenoverse 2. We're like 10 DLC packs in. Regardless of how you feel about that, they only had the initial 4 DLCs planned, that initial first year season pass plan. But because people wanted other characters like Deborah and such, they were like, oh, and Majin Buu Gohan and Absorbed and all that shit, they were like, oh, well, let's make more content. So then they made extra content that was unplanned. And then people got mad that they were being charged for it because they're like, it should have been in the game in the first place. Boo fucking who, they made it now because you requested it. Why are you mad that you have to pay for it? That's extra work they have to do. Now, if Game Freak was like, nah, in order to get any of these Pokemon, even if you want to trade them up from home, even if you want to trade them with other people, you have to buy the expansion, I'd be right up there pissed off with you guys. Because that would be ridiculous. Because at that point, they are charging you for Pokemon that have already existed. They would have Sound For'd us. And then just Storm 4. But, that's not the case. If you already have those Pokemon in older games, just transfer them up. Pokemon Bank, I believe the first year of Pokemon Bank was free. Or like the first few months, something like that. Early Pokemon Bank was free, and then after like that time period, they started charging. But it was like a yearly service charge of like $5. Or something like that. It was really cheap. It was dirt cheap. Because my friend Ryan has Pokemon Bank. And he doesn't really worry about it too much because it's fucking dirt cheap. So I'm sure Pokemon Home won't even be super expensive. Did they already end up? Actually, you know what? Don't quote me on that because they might have already said the price of Pokemon Home, and maybe I just didn't know. I'll have to look it up after this. So don't quote me on that. But I don't see Pokemon Home being super expensive if Pokemon Bank wasn't super expensive. Maybe like a little more because it's a console thing. Maybe a little more, but I don't know. But at the same time, like I was saying, it's just like, fuck, what was I getting at? I got so angry that I forgot what I was getting at. Like I said, like if they had to if they were charging us to get these, like the only way to do it was to buy the expansion pass. There's no other way to get these older Pokemon. Then I'd be pissed. I'm not even transferring Pokemon from older games. I'd still be pissed because it's just like, why are you charging money for people to get Pokemon? That makes no fucking sense. I'm getting the expansion passes to explore and experience the story. Usually for me, when I play Pokemon games, I stick to like a certain team. I'll have like, the team of Pokemon that I get where it's like Galar region exclusive like Pokemon for the main game, and then maybe I'll pick and choose some of them for like endgame team stuff or just get new Pokemon for endgame team stuff. But I don't usually, like, use a lot of Pokemon through every, like, gen or region I play. I'll, like, catch some if I run into them. Like, I caught a couple of Pokemon in Sword and Shield, but I'm not really, like, a collector to gotta catch them all. I just, like, having, like, my favorite ones and chilling. That's me personally, though. This isn't me trying to establish my viewpoints of how Pokemon should be for everyone. So, that's just me, though, and I still would have been mad right with you guys, because they should not charge for something that already has existed. You know what I mean? It's like, a lot of those Pokemon already exist, so of course they're not going to charge you. They're updated free into the game, and of course they're not going to put them into the regular wild area, because they're trying to entice you for the pass, of course, and they're trying to also diversify the wild areas. So, if the Island of Armor has the same Pokemon in its wild area as the regular wild area, what is the point of the Island of Armor's wild area, like, place existing? I get the whole concept behind it, and like I said, I feel like this is the best possible decision Game Freak could have made. Because, like I said, Sword and Shield was already seen in such a bad light, even before the game came out. Like, a lot of people had a lot of Why did I forget that word? Confirmation bias. I use that a lot when I'm talking to my friends. Like, a lot of people had a lot of confirmation bias towards that game. Like, when that game came out, they bought it and they were looking for things to say that was wrong with it. They weren't trying to find any positives to it. They were going to point out every negative and tell you only negatives. Even if something good happened in the game that they liked, they were not going to... People were already out there like that. So regardless of how the game is, and the game's seen in a positive light, I like to point out that Pokemon Sword is still within, like, the top 10 best-selling Switch titles in the eShop currently, and I believe Pokemon Shield is still within the top 20. So, people bought that shit, and they were, like, in the number, like, 1, 2, 3... They were in the top 5 for a long time after their release. For a good minute, they were up there. And like I said, I think Pokemon Sword is, like, number 7? I have my Switch right here. Let me see. Let me see where they are. Let me see where they stand. They might have moved up because of that expansion pass pre-orders, but at one point even the dual pack for Sword and Shield was within like the top 20 or the top 10. So I don't know, man. Let's see. Bestsellers. Pokemon Sword is currently number 6. And Pokemon Shield moved up. Pokemon Shield is currently number 14. I believe it was like number 17 when I checked the other day. So that just means people are buying it again. So yeah, it's like regardless of the shit being talked, the game's still selling really well. Which is warranting why they're putting more effort into make an expansion pass, or 2 expansion passes. And I might seem like a piece of shit for saying this, but I feel like Gen 8 should just be that, instead of just making it. If they still want to do Gen 4 remakes, because I know people really want the Sinnoh remakes, I'm totally fine with that. I'd be down. I'd probably try to pick one up. I'd be down for a Sinnoh remake. But in terms of just talking about Galar region in general, instead of making like a Sword and Shield 2, or an Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield, or a Pokemon Gun version, I don't know. Instead of doing that, just expand on Sword and Shield's base with these expansions. They don't always have to necessarily be like 2 expansions every time. Maybe like this will kick it off, and then 2021 will get like another expansion or 2 just to add on to it. And then maybe by 2022, they'll have like one more grandiose one, and then at that point, they announce 9th gen. Because we all know there's going to be a 9th gen. Pokemon makes too much money. But that's my personal feelings toward it. I feel like this is better than just making an updated version of the same game with like some added stuff for $60 every time. Just build off your base game with new and extra content. And if people feel like this stuff should have been in the base game in the first place, but it's new content that's being built after the fact, that's on them. That's how DLC should be. It should be an expansion of the base game. If you felt like there wasn't enough content in the base game, then you felt like there wasn't enough content in the base game. I personally thought it was fine. I personally thought it had about as much content as some other Pokemon games. It just, to some people, it didn't feel as enjoyable, so it felt like less. Because I can understand that, because people praised the Delta episode in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. The Delta episode is just as long as the post-game story event that happens in Sword and Shield. Because, first of all, there is fucking post-game to Sword and Shield. I'm so tired of hearing that there isn't a post-game to Sword and Shield. Just because you did not like the post-game to Sword and Shield does not mean it didn't exist. And it's just as fucking long as the Delta episode. It's just not as good. I don't hate the Sword and Shield post-game. It's okay. It's fun. And it gives Hop's character a little closure, which I enjoy very much. And it sets up these characters. Maybe they'll be involved in the Crown Tundra part. Maybe they'll know something. But, it's not as fun as the Delta. The Delta episode felt a lot more epic. But they're just as long as each other. They're about the same. It takes about the same amount of time to beat both of them. And, I feel like people just were hating the hate, but I'm like, there is post-game. Oh, and the ninjas have the battle tower. They have like a battle tower, battle tree, battle facility in every fucking post-game. What do they have in Black and White? The battle subway? I will say that 3rd gen and 5th gen probably had the best post-game content out of any Pokemon game. Well, I mean, there's Gen 2 as well. Gen 2, you could fucking go to Kanto. But Gen 3 had the Battle Frontier. But the Battle Frontier is just 7 fucking battle facilities. But at least they tried to, like, diversify it and make it cool. And Oras didn't have that, but they had the Delta episode. And then Black and White 2 had the little World Cup thing, which was like that tournament. But I like the fact that there's a tournament in Sword and Shield. And the league is replayable, and you just replay, like, the tournament. But you can invite people to compete in the tournament with the league cards you collected from, like, the gym leaders and your friends that you made along the way during Sword and Shield. So I was like, that's super cool that you can do that. And you defend your title in that tournament format. And also you can battle Leon again at the top of the battle tower, I believe. So I'm like, there's stuff to do. You guys just are like, oh, there's no post-content. There is post-content. So to say, like, this expansion is charging you for post-content is bullshit, because there is post-content already in the game. You not liking the post-content does not negate the post-content's existence, if that makes sense. This is extra stuff. It's an expansion. There's a whole new fucking area, 2 new areas to explore. It's not like, oh, you bought this, now here's some, like, story cutscenes in the same areas that were already in the game. There's 2 new areas in the game. And it's just like, that are going to be put in. So it's just like, yes, it's an expansion. It's new. It's fresh. Cool beans. I'm down for that. Please do it. It's really, like, this expansion pass is definitely as polarizing as Sword and Shield was when it came out. Or even before it came out. And I feel like that's just gonna be Sword and Shield's legacy as being, like, a really polarizing Pokemon title. Probably the most polarizing Pokemon title. Because you got the side that's like, you fucking shills, you sellouts, you guys just are Game Freak fanboys, you don't care about quality. And then you got one side just like, dude, Pokemon is Pokemon, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, oh, I don't care as long as it's a Pokemon game. And then you got, like, that middle place where people are just like, I like the game, I'm gonna criticize it for its shortcomings, but that neither side gives a fuck about because you're not fully on one side or the other. And it's weird. It's just like this weird split view of it. And I feel like that sucks because I feel like Galar Region is fun. I really like the Galar Region. I enjoy the characters you encounter in the Galar Region. I love the Pokemon of the Galar Region. I don't give a fuck. You can disagree with me if you want. I liked pretty much every new Pokemon that was introduced. I'd probably have to look over it again. There's probably a few that I'm probably like, eh. But I like most of them. Cinderace is my nigga. Cinderace is my favorite Galar Pokemon. I don't give a fuck how you feel about Cinderace. Cinderace is my dude. And last second bits of info from the Direct. This is just stuff that wasn't as major, but I feel like I'll note since I've been talking about the stuff. They did show scenes, a little artwork of Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. And it looks like they're all getting Galarian forms. So that's fucking cool. The legendary birds from Gen 1 are getting Galarian forms. Slowpoke has a Galarian form. And right now, an update came up for Sword and Shield yesterday. So if you go to Wedgehurst Town, to the train station, depending on what version you have, you'll talk to your respective rival that's going to be coming up in the Island of Armor. That's what's supposed to happen. The cutscene triggers, and then you can get a Galarian Slowpoke. Now, Galarian Slowpoke can evolve. To evolve Galarian Slowpoke into Galarian Slowbro, you have to get an item that's in the Island of Armor. To get Galarian Slowpoke to evolve into Galarian Slowking, you have to get an item that's in the Crown Tundra. Now, do you need these expansion passes to get these Pokemon? No, again, you can trade them, but if you want to do it yourself, yes, you have to get the expansion pass. Do I think this is a big deal? No, not really, but then again, that's my opinion. But they're giving you a Pokemon regardless of if you buy the expansion pass or not. So just trade with a homie. Like, I don't know. It shouldn't be too hard, dude. People complete the Pokedex through trading other people online all the time. So I don't see how this is any different. But that, again, that is just me. Please do not assault me for my opinions. It's all love at the end of the day. As long as you're not hating and attacking me, like, I'm not going to hate and attack you. What else? Oh, also, they hinted or, like, were briefly talking about a new co-op mode that will be available when the Crown Tundra releases. This new co-op mode will allow, like, you and, like, other people to link up and explore Pokemon dens. The Pokemon dens, if you don't know what those are, where you do the max raid battles, with the holes with the light coming out of them, where you can get Watts from or battle Dynamax or Gigantamax Pokemon. Those are the Pokemon dens. Normally, when you go into a Pokemon den, it's for the raid battles, for the max raid battles. So you're only doing the battle, and then you either catch the Pokemon and leave, beat the Pokemon and it runs away, or you take too long and get kicked out of the den. With this expansion, apparently, you'll actually be able to travel and explore inside these Pokemon dens. So, that's fucking cool. So we'll actually be able to see what's going on and what's actually in these dens. So that's kind of cool. And you get to explore it with your friends if you want. So that's an added bonus. And you're apparently going to be able to run into different Pokemon, including all the legendaries from previous games. They showed nearly every fucking legendary from every previous game. And I know a lot of people were saying, like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why the fuck are all these Pokemon even here in this region? Why are they all in these Pokemon dens in this region? But it's like, come on, dude. It's just an excuse for you to be able to catch legendaries. So, that's all it is. It's just a game mechanic to help you catch legendaries. You're gonna go legend hunting with your boys. And that sounds fun as fuck, honestly. Do a max raid battle against some, like, Dynamax / maybe even Gigantamax legendary Pokemon? Like, huh? Who knows? And the last bit of news is that Blastoise and Venusaur are going to be some of the Pokemon coming into this new game. So that's fucking dope, especially if they're in the wild areas of the Island of Armor or the Crown Tundra. That kind of be cool. Like, imagine being on the Island of Armor and seeing a Bulbasaur, Charmander, or Squirtle in the wild or some shit. That'd be dope. But we know they're coming because there was artwork for Gigantamax Venusaur and Gigantamax Blastoise. So, boom! Charizard's not the only nigga getting love. Blastoise and Venusaur are coming back. And just like how they all got Megas, they're all getting Gigantamax forms. So that's cool to see. But also, the starter trio. One thing I thought was weird about Sword and Shield was that Cinderace, Inteleon, and Rillaboom didn't have Gigantamax forms. I thought that was weird. And I thought the same thing in 6th Gen when none of your main starters like Delphox, Ninja, and Chestnut didn't have Mega Evolutions. But I guess the excuse you could use for those three not having Mega Evolutions is that none of the 6th Gen Pokemon have Mega Evolutions. I don't know if you guys have noticed that before, but not a single 6th Gen Pokemon has Mega Evolutions. And I feel like the only reason they did that was because one of the main reasons for Mega Evolution existing was for, popular Pokemon to get more love, like Charizard, Blaziken, da-da-da-da-da. People love those fucking Pokemon. And then also for weaker Pokemon to be able to get a boost in the competitive scene, like Beedrill or Lopunny. But I still always thought it was weird that not even a single 6th Gen got a Mega Evolution in the region where Mega Evolution is the main thing. I feel like at least a couple of them should. At the very least, the starters should have. Maybe even the legendaries, like Yveltal and Xerneas. But that's how I felt about 8th Gen with the starters not getting Gigantamax forms. Especially considering in 8th Gen, there's 8th Gen Pokemon with Gigantamax forms. There's a good amount of 8th Gen Pokemon with Gigantamax forms. So I was just like, kind of weird. And then in 7th gen, the starters got their own specific Z moves, so it's kind of like, a little weird, but okay. But as a content update, what's it called? As a part of this update, the starters are getting Gigantamax forms. So Cinderace, Inteleon, and Rillaboom have Gigantamax forms. They already showed them in the trailers. You can see them. And it's not even like super quick where it's like, oh, it was kind of like a blur. You can barely make it out. You can see them pretty fucking clear in the trailer. They were showing them. And they look dope. Rillaboom looks like he has like this big jungle drum kit set up. Like it's kind of like a wild forest like drum kit set up. Like he's on like a big ass stage. It kind of looks really dope. Inteleon, he gets kind of like this really big like water like perch mountain kind of thing to stand on, and he has like a little water sniper rifle, so that looks dope. And then my boy Cinderace looking like a god. He doesn't look too different like physically, like his ears are really long and like droopy, like floppy rabbit ears, but then he's like standing with his arms crossed on top of a big ass fireball that looks angry as fuck. I'm just like, my boy, Cinderace. Cinderace is my favorite Galar Pokemon. I love Cinderace so much. So I'm really stoked on those Gigantamax forms. And I'm interested in seeing how you can get them. Do you need the expansion pass to get them? Is it going to be some free add-on? Like when the expansions come out, maybe there's like a free little post-game event where somebody gives you the power to Gigantamax your starter. I don't know yet, but we'll see when we see it, right? So I'm excited. I'm really, really excited about that. And maybe even get a chance to see these hidden abilities more too. I would love Cinderace with that hidden ability. Cinderace's hidden ability is like Protean. And if you don't know what Protean is Great Ninja's ability where it changes its type based on what move it's using. So it'll always get a stab. So Cinderace's ability is essentially exactly that, just with a different name. So I'm just like, dude, Cinderace is fucking dope. I love Cinderace. I don't care what anyone says. I think Cinderace is the best starter of Gen 8. Great Ninja had Gen 6. Decidueye had Gen 7. My boy Cinderace is taking Gen 8. I'm sorry. He's fucking cool. Pyro Ball also is the dopest signature move of the starters this gen. Fucking... God. This is me being really biased, but I love that little bunny, bro. That is my boy. But that's it for all the Pokemon news I wanted to cover. All, like, the false information I wanted to discuss and fix. So, just finally to clarify, the 200 Pokemon being added can be obtained without getting the expansion pass. You can either trade other people that already have them, or if they're older Pokemon, you can trade them up through Pokemon Home. You do not need the expansion pass to obtain these new Pokemon. I repeat, you do not need the expansion pass to obtain these Pokemon at all. If you want to catch them yourselves, make it a little easier to obtain, then yeah, you're going to have to get the expansion pass. But who cares? You can get them without the expansion. Like, oh no, there's an easier way to do it, but I have to pay for it. I might be sounding like an asshole, but personally, that's just how I feel about it. Second thing, it is $30 for both expansions for the Island of Armor and the Crown Tundra. It is not $30 a piece, but it is $30 for both expansions in Sword and $30 for both expansions in Shield. So make sure when you buy the expansion pass, if you're going to get it for the correct version. If you have Pokemon Shield and you buy the expansion pass for Pokemon Sword, it will be incompatible with your version. If you have both versions, I full-heartedly say only get one of the expansion passes. I don't think you should get both. If you want to get both to experience these extra content storylines with their slight differences from both games, be my guest, but that's an on-you kind of thing. I feel like it is entirely unnecessary, but that's just my personal thoughts about it. And that's about it. I don't have anything else to bitch about. So yeah, that was a whole lot of Pokemon today. But next week we'll start with our official kind of news structure with the introductions, the quick news. I'll do my first Yu Yu Hakusho retrospective review. And the way that's going to work, I think I mentioned it before, I'm going to watch the episodes weekly, like probably at the top of the week. Like I'll probably watch the first episode on Monday or Tuesday or something like that. And then let it digest, take some notes, put together my thoughts, and then spend 20-25 minutes discussing the episode. And we'll just do that every week. I feel like that's easier than trying to do a whole season's retrospective because I talk a lot. So I feel like that'll be easier to do. And then we move into our main topic of discussion for the rest of the podcast. So that's how it's going to work from now on, hopefully. I'll update you guys on when I'm getting the new equipment. And then, other than that, that's pretty much it. So, hope you guys are enjoying your 2020. Hope you guys enjoyed the first podcast of 2020. And thanks for all the support. Please spread the word. Please follow the podcast on Podbean. If you're listening on Podbean, lets me know that you guys are listening. And I appreciate the support. And I'll catch you guys next week. What are we talking about next week? I don't know. I don't have a main topic yet, but I'll have one. I have a whole week to digest news. Hopefully it won't be more Pokemon news. Hopefully it'll be something else. Oh, you know what? I'll do more of a review on Valkyrie Chronicles if nothing else, since I'm pretty much done with the game. Valkyria Chronicles 4. I had finished it. I'm just currently doing the DLC stuff, but the main story I'm done with. So maybe I'll do a full-on talk and review about that. That'll be the main topic for next week, if nothing new and important catches my eye by then. So yeah. Alright guys, see you next week. Oh, and we have a new outro, so the outro title will be in the description for the podcast, as well as the intro. Alright, see ya.